Good day and welcome to another Space Pathways. And I'm really pleased that we have Dr. Claire Nelson. Good day, Claire. How are you?
Good day, greetings and salutations.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Claire, tell us briefly about your family and professional background.
Wow, I come from Jamaica and I grew up as Mrs. Nelson's daughter, which means in the Jamaican context, when your mother was a teacher back in the 60s, you were living in a fishbowl. You were supposed to be an exemplar of good behavior.
Good.
I can't say that I was that, but my background is Jamaican and my professional background is industrial engineering.
Excellent. And why and how did you get involved in the space sector?
I got into the space sector because I recognized that to achieve the SDGs, space was going to be very significant. And SDGs, for those of you who don't know, Sustainable Development Goals, 17 of them, put out there for us as humankind to move towards solving many of the problems we have, both social, economic, and environmental. And recognizing that we needed to have planetary consciousness, I thought, how do I get people to know about space? I started first by writing a one-woman show, Moon Runnings, and then next thing you know, my life started behaving as it were Moon Runnings. Things started to happen, and I took my engineering mind and plunged into creating a Caribbean Space Society because I recognized that climate change was going to be important, and Caribbean people need to understand from whence the weather data came, the satellite data came, and to ensure that that would remain accessible and usable and equitable access would be possible as space began to be privatized. So my journey in the space sector is my response to my fear that the privatization of space might lead to lack of access for developing and emerging nations.
Okay, so that's the mission and vision behind the Caribbean Space Society. You're also the driving force behind the Futures Forum. Could you tell us a bit more about that?
So once I jumped in October 2018 to the Caribbean Space Society, I recognized that that platform would be too small because there were no real Caribbean space agencies in the Caribbean. So people were looking at me as if I'd grown two horns, right? So I said, but they're African space agencies and they need help. And guess what? Most of their people are in the global north, in developing countries, in developed countries. What about we get them engaged in supporting the education and scientific development of the universities like myself? I went to University One in Jamaica. So the Space Futures Forum began as an intention to create a community of practice with people of African descent and their allies around the world coming together to ensure first we'll have a conversation dialogue space, then we begin to exchange information. And so I started, I think, just with conversations using International Spaceflight Day and World Space Week as opportunities to gather the minds to begin to talk about why space is important for the Caribbean, why space is important for Africa, why space is important for small island developing states.
Thanks for that. Today is Thursday, the 12th of December, UN International Neutrality Day. You've decided to focus on space. What are your plans and who is involved?
Well, my plans for International Neutrality Day is to really help to have a conversation about why it's important that we work assiduously towards ensuring space remains a peaceful zone. We recognize that as things heat up for the space economy, some of the goodwill over the years that have been formed through the International Space Station and other partnerships are beginning to kind of, I would say, wear around the edges. They're not withered, but they're wearing. More people are putting up space forces and weapons, etc. And I do believe it's important for the average person to begin to see space as neutral. Space is belonging to all of us. I'm a passionate advocate of space for all, not because we can't afford a rocket and build a rocket to go there, doesn't mean that we don't have the rights to access space. And so I want to bring in my crew that are part of my African contingent I've been developing around the project Omni-Africa Space Exploration Analog Simulation. They come from across Africa, and I hope to have a conversation with them to help amplify their voice. People don't know that people in Africa are working in their small ways, so we want to amplify their voice.
Excellent. And we certainly look forward to those dialogues later today and in the future. Finally, what is your advice for any women and girls inspired by your achievements?
Well, first, don't let anybody say you can't. I just realized that my initials spell can, C-A-N. Carolisa Nelson, I've been wondering why. Now I understand why my initials spell I can. So I'm born to believe I can do that which I set my mind to. And it doesn't matter if you're not in engineering or in science, because the future in space requires more people in different types of education. The engineering companies need accountants. The engineering company need lawyers. The engineering companies are going to need, artists who can render imaginative constructions of, what a lunar settlement or Martian settlement might look like 50 years from now, 100 years from now. So space really is for everyone, and it's important that we recognize, yes, it might be driven by science and technology and engineering, but we do recognize that it takes an ecosystem of people passionate about ensuring humankind's safe and equitable and sustainable exploration of space if we are to succeed and flourish in the far future.
Thank you very much for that. And just before we go, could you, if anyone's interested in connecting with you, because I know you do a lot of speaking engagements, and how would they get hold of you?
The easiest way to get hold of me is the Futures Forum at gmail.com, the Futures Forum at gmail.com, or of course I can be found on LinkedIn. I'm very active there as well.
Great. Thank you very much and good day.
Thank you for having me.